This is television for the Isles of Scilly, brought to you with Worldwide Financial Planning, Truro and Penwith College, and the Scilly Lottery. From Radio Scilly, this is scillytv.com.
I want to talk about a few things really. I want to speak about a little bit about the damage to the electric fencing and the thefts that we've had on the garage and other spots to do with the sort of Wildlife Trust's electric fencing and other stuff. A little bit about underage drinking, driving in general, and sort of drink driving more specifically.
Okay, let's start with the Wildlife Trust damage, and we've reported on the news that fencing's been cut, electric fencing, and signage has been damaged. The electric fencing signage, gates have been left open. It's obvious, I'd say, and I'm not Miss Marple, but somebody that's got an issue with the Wildlife Trust grazing policy, because everything to do with grazing seems to be being affected and vandalised. What's the police angle on this?
The police angle on this is, from our perspective, we've basically got a bit of a mini crime explosion. A sort of a massive spike in our criminal damages and thefts on the islands, purely because of this one issue. It's a frustration for us because it means our crime figures are going to go up. I mean, that's not an issue in itself, but it does then reflect on Scilly because the papers, we know, like reporting this is a crime-free paradise, and if we suddenly have a 150, 200% rise in criminal damage because of this one issue,
it's going to get in the papers.
It's going to hit the papers. Yeah, that's one of our issues. The other is that if, and as you say, it does appear that this is probably somebody who has an issue with the Wildlife Trust doing their grazing policy. As police, we're independent of that, and we have to remain impartial as to whether we're pro or against the grazing policy. What I am very happy to say is this is not the way to make your feelings known, or I personally would say it's a fairly immature way of dealing with what you regard as a problem. If somebody's got an issue with the Wildlife Trust and their grazing policy, they need to address it with the Wildlife Trust and go through the sort of the proper channels and the legal channels, rather than running around in the dead of night or whatever it is being done and damaging the fencing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all you're doing then is you're putting the animals at risk. You're actually letting the animals wander then onto the pathways and whatever else. And if people are in fear of these animals, as they're saying they are, then all you're doing is letting the animals, wander further afield.
Well, let's steer away from what people think about the policy, because despite what Trevor says, I'm not quite sure if you're going to get a meeting of minds on this one. But looking at just basic police action, it's a black and white thing in any case when some criminal damage has taken place. That's what you're viewing it as, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's criminal damage, and it's a crime. It's an offence, and if we get any indication as to who's involved in it, then we would be duty bound to investigate it. It would involve an interview, I suspect. We'd do a taped interview regarding it and investigate. It's becoming a problem.
So what happens if you nick somebody and they're guilty? What sort of penalty are they going to face?
Because of the public impact, because it is quite high in the public eye at the moment. There is the potential that it could end up in court, because obviously public impact weighting is used in decisions about charging. There is the potential it could end up in court. More likely is going to be a caution or something of that ilk.
But they have to repair or pay for the damage?
Yeah, there's always potential that compensation will be awarded, yes.
Because this is getting quite expensive, we're into four figures now, aren't we?
It is, yeah. It's a major expense, yeah.
Have you spoken to people? Have you been interviewing people, formally or informally?
I've had a couple of chats with a few people who, there's no indication of who actually is doing it, but I've spoken to a couple of people just to say, if you are aware of who is doing it, can we put a stop to it, please? This isn't the way to deal with it, really.
Do you think anybody is aware of who's doing it?
I think the person that's doing it knows they're doing it.
Well, one would know.
Other than that, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. We'll see how that transpires, but they cover a lot of land, the Wildlife Trust, so there's a lot to choose from. What are you going to do to police this? Is there anything you can do, or just have to wait until the next report comes through?
It's just trying to get the message out that this isn't the way to deal with it, and from our perspective, it's very, very difficult. Unless we get reports of people being seen damaging the stuff, damaging the fences or the solar panels and that, there's very little we can do, really. We are looking at sort of avenues of dealing with it. Yeah.
Okay. Drink driving.
drink driving. We had an incident this weekend where somebody was arrested on suspicion of drink driving.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to reinforce really the police approach to it, or the sort of general attitude towards drink driving. I mean, from where I am, there's never any excuse for drink driving, and particularly on these islands where everywhere is basically within half an hour walk. There's not an excuse for doing it over here either, and it's quite sad that it potentially is a problem over here.
Okay. So are you stepping up patrols? Is there a need to, or is it just one of these things? The most recent allegations about sort of kind of one-off thing that happens sometimes.
Yeah, I mean we're always out and about late at night, and we've got our sort of new breath boxes over here, which are far more accurate than the old ones. And yeah, we'll be using those sort of more as the weather becomes worse as well. I suspect it's a fact that as the weather becomes worse, the propensity to drink drive sort of increases a bit.
Yeah.
So we'll be stepping up sort of the late night patrols and and doing a bit more sort of action towards that.
Okay. Other issues?
Driving in general.
Right.
As Shirley said to me this morning, she went down and met the Scilly yesterday. There were about 450 people on it, and she said the vast majority, as expected this time of year, were probably sort of well into their 60s or 70s. Elderly people take longer to cross the road and struggle to get out of the way of vehicles, and it's just really, in terms of people's driving, just having awareness that people do tend to walk in the middle of the roads over here. There's a culture over here that is going to be very tough to change, and just to have a little more sort of awareness of what might be coming around the corner, because the elderly do struggle more to get out of the way.
Have you had a scrape?
We had a scrape.
Is there some kind of issue that's brought this to the fore?
I don't think so. No,
Okay.
no. It was just I was speaking to Shell this morning, and she said, just mention it because it potentially is a problem, isn't it? So, yeah.
Okay.
And then we've had a minor issue with underage drinking just prior to the weekend.
Is this licensed premises, or is this
Not on licensed premises?
Okay.
No, this is kids drinking sort of.
Is this buzzer?
No, it's not buzzer
Okay.
either. You can keep guessing if you like.
Do I win a car? Go on, which area then?
On the quay.
Okay, on the quay.
On the quay, yeah. We've had some kids drinking on the quay. From where I'm sat, the quay is probably not the best place to go if you want to do a bit of drinking anyway, because there's also potential that you're going to fall in the sea. But we've spoken to the kids involved, and we want to ensure that it isn't going to be a problem over here, and to curb it before it turns into a problem, because that's one of the beauties over here really, is that you haven't got drunken teenagers and drunken children sort of running around for a Friday and Saturday night. And it isn't a problem. The reality is that the kids over here are pretty good, and we don't have sort of general problems.
Maybe just a bit of a one-off.
Bit of a one-off,
time of year,
maybe a celebration of some kind.
Okay, but you're keeping an eye out for it, are you?
We will be keeping an eye out for it, yeah.